it's electronic, it will not run. If you have a late model automobile, now there is some argument that says that some of the more recent automobiles might survive because of the added shielding they've had to put on them, just because they're so electronic and interference. There's speculation, but none of them have been tested. But if it's electronic, if you have a 70 Chevrolet pickup truck with points and condensers, it's going to run. Your old tractor will run. If it's diesel, you may have to replace the glow plugs in it, but it will run. But anything electronic, motors driving pumps for sewers won't run. Motors driving pumps for water won't run. Motors driving pumps for gasoline, fuel won't. And generators won't start because their electronic boards will be fried, unless you happen to have a spare one that's protected.
So, points and condensers are...
Yes.
And then on generators, it's what?
The electronic board that start the electronics that control it, those will be fried.
So if you have a little Honda 2000 watt, it's going to fry?
I don't know. There's some of those that are older models that are hand started that might survive. But you got a little bit like that, put it in a Faraday cage. Put it inside a garbage can, a metal garbage can. Insulate the inside with cardboard so it's not touching, and put it inside and put the lid on it. It's probably, then you take it out later. Yes, sir.
I have a question on smart meters. One of the ladies in Upshur County was asking if there was, I know you did something passed, you had a bill passed the Senate, and didn't go through the House, unfortunately, on smart meters. If someone asks you, say an electric company in Upshur County is trying to put a smart meter in her house, and she doesn't want it, does she have any recourse? Where can she go?
I did. I mean, you can tell them no.
Right.
Yeah, yes, you can tell them no.
What's a smart meter? I missed something.
They come in without you knowing. Yes. If you're not home, they'll just cut it on.
Yeah, you need to write to them send them a certified letter telling them. Yes, sir.
How will this affect anything solar energy?
What about
solar power energy?
the electronics in it will probably burn up. I have been told that the panels themselves will not be susceptible to it, but the connectors, the electronics in it, most likely will be fried.
Maybe if you don't have the batteries hooked up to it, but you gotta have the batteries somewhere.
Like in a Faraday.
You have to have them there and not hooked up.
Well, your batteries will be okay. You don't need to worry about a Faraday cage for those. They're robust enough that they'll probably be okay.
Oh, the batteries.
A car battery.
Okay, so we have several normal vehicles that are in the 60s, like 1959.
Yes.
We have several. So if we had an EMP, it wouldn't affect those.
Right. Even those radios will probably work. The radios that are in them are vacuum tube. If you're in the 60s, they're vacuum tube. Anything else? Okay.
Did you ever read, I know you did, because this covers the same subject, the 1 second after?
Yes, 1 second after. Those of you that would like to know what life would be like without electricity, the book 1 Second After, it's fictional, but I think Forsyth did an excellent job of a very objective description of how life will deteriorate over time for the first 12 months. And the federal government has predicted that without electricity, in 11 months, we'll lose 90% of the population. That's 300 million people. And right now, if it were to happen today, the power company officials that were in our hearing back in the last session admitted that the lights would never come back on again. That there is no ability to repair if it goes out. Because we're talking about the country. This is not like a Katrina, which is a widespread, or the storms in the Northeast. They're very widespread. but the cavalry from the outside came in. There is no outside unless it's an invading army coming in. And so life as we know it would come to an end. And I don't say that as a doomsday, I ain't talking about it, but it's real, it's realistic, and whether it's son or an enemy.
It seems like it would be a great sales thing for the Chamber of Commerce if Texas's grid was protected, right?
Great question,
Wouldn't
I
all
didn't get to cover that. That's the upside, that is the real upside of this. You know, Texas prides itself on being open for business. Remember we had a governor ran around the country saying, come on down, Texas is open for business. Well, I can't imagine a bigger carrot for businesses. I mean, we spend a tremendous amount of your tax money bribing companies to move here. Remember a couple of years ago, we paid Toyota $40 million to move to Plano? We do that all the time. We pay the owners of Formula One Racing $25 million a year for the next 10 years to bring Formula One racing to Texas. Think about what it would be if you told a business, you know, when the lights go out in the country, they'll be back on in Texas first, or maybe they'll just blink in Texas. That's stretching a little bit. But the idea is we not only would have an electrical grid system that's resilient in a benign environment, but resilient in a hostile environment. And think about what it would mean in the military. We benefit about $154 billion in our economy as a result of the military that's here in the various bases. They are now writing the BRAC, the Base Realignment and Closing Committee, is right now looking to see what bases to close around the country. It's my opinion that if we were in the process of hardening our grid, they wouldn't even think about shutting down a base in Texas. Matter of fact, I know they would not. I've talked to some of the military who said, can you get Texas to get its grid hardened and we will move our assets there. So, yes ma'am.
It's my understanding that the Texas electrical grid pretty much stops at Tyler, Sen County, and that we're not necessarily, our area is not necessarily on that grid. And how would you suppose that we could be included in that grid?
That's part of what we're working on. I talked about that a little earlier. I've talked with the PUC and ERCOT about what our, latitude there is. That's more of a policy kind of thing that developed for a strange reason, but it is doable. I mean, we can work with that because you're still under the PUC here, Public Utilities Commission, and there's nothing preventing the power company from doing that. And so without getting into a lot of options of what might be out there to do, it is part of the consideration of what we're putting together is to not let any part of Texas be left out of it. It may be a timing thing, because I honestly believe once Texas starts to move, Louisiana's going to be right behind us because they're very competitive in Texas in attracting businesses. As soon as the light comes on for them, that this will attract businesses, they will be doing it in a heartbeat. Florida already figured it out. Virginia, with a Democrat governor, has figured it out. Between the Democrat governor and their Dominion Electric, they're working together to try to get it in Virginia right now. Do you have a question?
Okay.
Okay.
I have one quick question about Andy's Law.
Yes.
How are they going to protect innocent people from that law being used against them? Because of angry family or neighbors or something.
Well, the bill's got to be worked out to make sure that we don't have unintended consequences of people using that. It's one of those things like everything else. Once you try to solve a problem, you create several other problems. And I haven't seen we don't have the details of the bill yet. It's the concept that people have some protection so that we don't have people afraid to speak up. When you see something, say something. And that's what is, as you go back in every one of those terrorist attacks afterwards, there were people who saw what was going on with the individuals who were afraid to say something because of retaliation. And so that's what we're trying to solve. All right. No questions? Oh,